At Interlochen, kids dreamed of Carnegie Hall. Jeffrey Epstein dreamed of something else. Imagine a summer camp in the woods of Michigan. Kids playing music, lakes shimmering in the sun, cabins tucked between the pines. On the surface, it's idyllic, but in the shadows of that same camp, a predator was waiting. Jeffrey Epstein.
I realize what I am. I'm very comfortable in my own skin.
His name is carved into Interlochen's history, not just as a camper in the 60s or a generous donor in the 90s, but as a man who used this very place to find victims. Epstein the Camper. Long before the headlines, Epstein himself had been a camper at Interlochen. In the summer of 1967, a teenage Epstein earned a scholarship to study bassoon at what was then called the National Music Camp. According to his brother Mark, Jeffrey exaggerated that story for the rest of his life, sometimes even claiming he'd once been a budding concert pianist. But Interlochen was real. He went there. The camp left its mark on him, and decades later he came back not as a student, but as a donor, which brings us to the donor years. Between 1990 and 2003, Epstein gave money to Interlochen, less than $500,000 in total, but one gift stood out. In 1994, he and Ghislaine Maxwell donated $200,000 to build a rustic log cabin on campus. It was called the Jeffrey Epstein Scholarship Lodge. On paper, the cabin was for visiting parents and donors, but the location was unsettling, right next to the junior girls' camp. One Interlochen newsletter at the time even celebrated the gift, writing, "The Jeffrey Epstein Scholarship Lodge is nearing completion as the newest rental unit on campus, located near junior girls' camp." I mean, for a while it was just another donor building, but when the truth about Epstein's crimes came out years later, the placement of that lodge suddenly looked a lot more sinister. The summer of 1994, Jane's story. That same year, 1994, a 14-year-old girl known only as Jane arrived at Interlochen on a family scholarship. Her father, a classical music conductor, had just died. Her family had gone bankrupt. She was vulnerable. Jane testified years later that one afternoon, while eating ice cream with friends, she saw a tall woman with a Yorkshire Terrier. That woman was Ghislaine Maxwell. Moments later, Epstein joined her. Jane told the court, "I was on a park bench or a picnic bench with my friends from camp, and probably about a minute later, a man came and joined her, and I sat on the bench still eating my ice cream, and the man sat across from me." Epstein introduced himself and Maxwell as big benefactors of the camp. He asked Jane for her mother's phone number. This was the beginning of years of grooming and abuse. Jane testified. When Epstein found out Jane lived in Palm Beach, as he did, he asked for her mother's phone number. It was the beginning of a relationship where Epstein and Maxwell groomed her for sex and repeatedly sexually abused her for at least the next half-decade. Epstein even paid for her camp tuition in 1995 and 1996 when her family couldn't afford it. By then, Jane was traveling on Epstein's private jet, meeting powerful men, including, she said, Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Epstein's creepy cabin in the woods. The lodge itself, Epstein's gift to Interlochen, became a symbol of his presence. Court records show that Epstein and Maxwell stayed there in August of 1994, right around the time Jane testified that she met them. Interlochen's own records, though, later claimed he only stayed once in August of 2000. A spokesperson insisted, per the funding agreement, he was permitted to use the lodge for up to 2 weeks per year. Interlochen has no record of any other use by him beyond that 1 week in August 2000. So which is it? 94 or 2000? The testimony, the flight logs, and the paper trail don't all agree. One of the lingering mysteries. What's certain is that after Epstein's 2007 conviction for soliciting underage girls, the school quietly renamed the building Green Lake Lodge and removed his name from campus.
After Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of a sex crime with a minor, Interlochen Center for the Arts near Traverse City removed his name from a lodge at the school.
Flight logs and secret visits. Epstein's flight records show that his private jet landed at Cherry Capital Airport, just a short drive from Interlochen, at least 4 times: 1996, 1997, 1998, and 2000. One trip in August of '98 included Maxwell and 2 other passengers for a 5-day stay at Traverse City. Did they visit Interlochen then? The records don't say, but the dates line up perfectly with the camp's end of summer performances, where donors usually showed up. Even Epstein's infamous Little Black Book listed Interlochen as his Michigan home, with phone numbers and the lodge's address. Interlochen's response. When Epstein was arrested in 2019, Interlochen rushed to distance itself. Then President Trey Davy admitted Epstein had been a camper in 1967 and a donor until 2003. But he insisted our policies, both presently and during the time in which Mr. Epstein was an active donor, do not permit unsupervised contact between students and donors. Okay. After Jane testified in Maxwell's 2021 trial, Interlochen repeated that line, writing, "There have been no allegations that Jeffrey Epstein abused anyone on our campus. Camper living areas have restricted access and campers are supervised for the duration of their time on campus." Still, critics and alumni weren't convinced. One former student wrote, "Epstein's presence was everywhere. Employees, past and present, cannot agree on how many times he stayed at the lodge bearing his own name. Even the road names have been changed." When donating becomes a disguise. The arts world gave Epstein cover. To the outside world, he was just another wealthy patron helping talented kids. He donated to ballet schools, Juilliard, and the Metropolitan Opera. But Interlochen was different. It wasn't just an institution he supported. It was a place where, by multiple accounts, he first found underage victims. And chillingly, the Interlochen Lodge wasn't his only cabin hideout. Jurors in Maxwell's trial were shown photos of another log cabin Epstein founded in New Mexico, where more abuse allegedly took place. The pattern was clear. He used philanthropy as a disguise. Legacy of silence. Even today, Interlochen alumni wrestle with the truth. Some remember him hosting galas for Interlochen in his New York mansion. Others remember just the whispers, Victoria's Secret's catalogs mysteriously showing up in dorms, or donors hovering around performances. The school insists nothing inappropriate ever happened on campus, but Epstein victims say otherwise. And for many, the mystery isn't whether abuse happened there, but whether the full story will ever come out. So what does this all mean? Why was Epstein so obsessed with returning to the camp that he once attended? Why build a cabin right next to the girls' lodges? Well, I mean, probably know why. Why did flight logs, donor records, and survivor testimony all point back to this quiet school in the woods in Michigan? And most of all, how many kids walk through those pine trees carrying their instruments, never realizing that they were crossing paths with one of the darkest predators of our time? Thank you so much for 30k subs. Yay! I'm so happy to have you all here, especially our friends who have been there since the start. I do see you in the comments and you are so appreciated and we love you so much. If you're a newbie and you found this story chilling, then stick around because there are so many corners of Epstein's world we haven't covered yet. Every time I think I'm done, I find something else. So hit subscribe and let's keep digging into the weirdos and freaks who covertly run our lives. Bye!